Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Real Talk with Ellison. And I am Ellison. Listen, if you are on Facebook, please like us. If you are on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe. We on Real Talk with Ellison, on this show, we talk about topics that are real life, that impact the community as a whole, the church as well, right? We just on Real Talk with Ellison, we just love keeping it real. So with that being said, we're about to get this show started. Welcome, guys, to Real Talk with Ellison. And on today's show, we are continuing with the series, It Still Hurts, right? Good evening, Sandra. Oh, before I even get started, congratulations on your graduation. So anyway, back to the show. So we are talking about It Still Hurts, and we're talking about the feeling, the dealing, and the healing process. And we are also bringing this to you this month of May because it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And it is our hope that with our stories, our journeys, people recognize the way mental health impacts their lives as well as the lives as others. I did some research on infertility. And I was kind of actually shocked at the numbers, right? So, according to the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, 1 in 6 people are infertile. I didn't know that. If y'all knew that, y'all give me a thumbs up. But I didn't know that, right? So, America has the highest rate at 23.2%. That is high compared to other countries that were only at 10%. That speaks volumes of what we're doing over here, right? So listen, there are numerous reasons why women and men have fertility problems. And today we have two wonderful women sharing their journey, right? The first one we have is my wonderful, dear sister from another mister, co-host sometime maybe, Jaquita. Hey, Jaquita. We cannot hear you. She been on here 1,000 times,
I'm
y'all.
sorry, I had it on mute. I'm trying to make sure my noise in the background is good. But hello, hello. How are you all? How are you, Ellison?
Hi, I'm doing good. Looking beautiful as always. Hello, hello, hello.
Thank you, thank you. Same to you.
Okay. And next, you guys may remember her from last week. She was just giving us some good information. Almost had us in tears up in here. But we have Candace Cradle.
Hi.
Hey,
Hello,
beautiful.
everyone. Hey,
How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for asking. So much for asking. So, listen, guys, we're going to talk about endometriosis, right? Endometriosis. And each of us have dealt with it, and each of our journeys are different. But before I get into the depths of, endometriosis, I want to say something about last week, Candace.
Okay.
Last week you gave us a little tidbit about birth control,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we didn't get, because there was quite a few of us on last week, so we didn't really get into the whole depths of the birth control.
Right.
So if you don't mind elaborating a little bit on what you were sharing with us about what birth control caused in your case.
Well, thank you for having me once again. I am excited to be here to share my story and my journey with endometriosis. Um, as you said, it's something that affects everyone and everyone differently. So, within the endometriosis, for me, by the age of 15, I was seeing a midwife. Reason being is because I wasn't sexually active, but I was having cycles and I was bleeding very heavily. So as a teenager, they said, okay, well, we can put you on birth control. Birth control is something that will help, regulate your cycles. It won't be as heavy. You'll still have them every month, but you won't, the cycles won't be heavy. So
Mhm.
to me at that time, of course, my mother who went with me, we said, okay, let's try it. And I tried it and I was on birth control for quite a while. And by the time I came off to get pregnant after I got married, I was like, oh, well, we're coming off. You should be able to get pregnant within 6 months. But that wasn't the case for me. And that's when I was beginning to question what was going on. Why was I not able to get pregnant? And what happened was the birth control actually suppressed the endometriosis. So
Mm.
my first sign of having endometriosis was having a very heavy cycle. And
Mm.
that's one that we are all seeing, all have known, heard others share. My cycles are heavy, causes a lot of cramps and pain even before it comes. So, like a week before, I can tell when it's coming because I would get those heavy cramps, the back,
Yeah.
which is all a part of having the endometriosis.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
for us, we've been told that's part of the process.
Right.
And it's actually should not be part of the process. Yes, we should go through that natural part of life, having a
Mm.
regular cycle every month. But the pain, the heaviness, and the flow of how the bleeding flow each month should not be heavy to where you're going through a pack of pads within 2 to 3 days. That is not normal. So
Listen.
for me, it
Yes,
suppressed
ma'am.
it. And when I came off, it says, I'm here to party and I'm going to just take over. And that's exactly what it did. It took over
Wow.
at a rapid rate that was not normal. And it
Yeah.
started to attack, my reproductive system.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing about the birth control, how it suppressed it, because that was one thing we didn't really elaborate on.
Mhm.
And so many times we get on birth control because they tell us that it will help with our menstruation, right? In my case, they put me on it as well to help regulate because I don't know if everybody familiar with those overnight pads, but I
Mhm.
used to wear 2 of them a day and sometimes come through. That is not normal. That is not normal at all. So they put me on it. And when I tell you the hormones, the weight gain, and everything was ridiculous, it really, really was. Now, I did read where, the exact cause of endometriosis is unknown. However, there's something called retrograde menstruation, right? And in retrograde menstruation, that's where the menstrual blood containing endometrial cells flow back through the fallopian tubes and into the pelvic cavity instead of into the body, making it not a normal menstruation, right?
Right.
I also read that endometriosis can be inherited. It's a
Yes.
gene, and I didn't know that. So, you guys on Real Talk, you heard from Candace, you heard a little bit about mine. Quita, let us know a little bit about your beginning stages of endometriosis.
Well, I will say before my beginning stages of endometriosis, um, I didn't experience what you guys experienced.
Mm.
I was one that had a normal cycle. I did start my cycle at 9 years old, though. So when I
Mm-hmm.
was 9, I received the cycle. It was normal. It flowed natural. It flowed fine. I mean, I guess it clotted, which was normal, but not like excessive.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a normal cycle up from 9 years old until I just always had a normal cycle. I never experienced anything that told me that I had signs of endometriosis. Um,
Mm.
so the difference from me from y'all was that I didn't experience much pain. I had normal cramping like everybody, but I would still be able to function from day 1 to day 5. It
Mm-hmm.
was all normal. I actually chose to get on birth control, not to regulate my cycle or anything like that. I chose to get on birth control because at one point I wasn't sexually active, but I knew I was coming to the age where I desired to be sexually active. So I actually got on birth control for a different reason from y'all, and everything about mine seemed normal for years.
Right. So let me ask you this, because Quita, you said you were 9 when you got your cycle. I was 8. Candace, how old were you?
10.
Mm.
Wow, 8, 9, and 10.
Mhm.
Well, I'm no scientist, but
Yeah,
I'm wondering if, the earlier you get it, the
Yes.
more problems that
it
you
caused
can
possible.
cause,
Hmm.
right? So
Mhm.
when you guys found out about the endometriosis, did the doctor explain to you what was going on? Because so many people say, well, my doctor didn't really explain it to me.
I would say yes. Well, for me, she had an idea of what it was, what I was going through, and to confirm it, I actually had to have my first surgery, a laparoscopy. Excuse me, yeah, a laparoscopy. That was the first surgery that I had. So that was the way she confirmed it. So she explained what it was, and they were still, optimistic that I would be able to get pregnant and do all of that. But it just took a journey of its own.
Mm-hmm.
So she explained it. I went through the process. Of course, I read up on it, but it wasn't as detailed as it is today. It wasn't as
Mm-hmm.
talked about. And this was back in, I want to say, 2004. Yeah, I
Right.
started in 2004. So it wasn't talked about. And it was something that, now it has evolved and more people are speaking.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. More people are speaking, and so many of us are still quiet, right? So many of us are still quiet on this journey, and as a woman, we suffer. Where some of us are suffering in silence, right? Because we don't want to, we don't sometimes we don't want to believe, sometimes we don't want to feel ridiculed, because this is life, this is what we're supposed to do, right? So many of us are suffering in silence, and that's why I appreciate both of you for coming on today and sharing a little bit more about it. So Krita, with you, right?
Mhm.
What did the doctors tell you about your journey?
Well, my beginning journey came when I was maybe 26. Jeremy and I had gotten married when I was 24. So the first 2 years, it was kind of like, we're not in a rush to have a kid. Let's just enjoy being married. And so the next, after those two, we were going about our lives and trying to see if we could conceive. So, like I said, in the first two, we weren't trying, but if it happened, it would happen. But I noticed after the two, we said, okay, let's start trying. So then we went on for 2 years outside of the two when we were originally married. And so that brought on 4 years. And so I told Jeremy, we were in the military, and I was like, hey, while we're in, the military covers everything. Let's see what's going on. It could possibly be me. It could possibly be you, but I
Mm,
always had a normal cycle and I didn't know a lot about any of it. So what brought me on my journey of it was I just couldn't conceive. And at that time I was just starting to become a little frustrated. So we went
right.
to our infertility doctor, which her name is Jill Flood. Me and Ellison kind of Googled since then because she actually was her doctor as well. I went to
Mhm.
her first and I recommended Ellison to her, but she's pretty good, but she's still working, y'all. She's been doing this over 30 years. So, but we just went and we ran all different type of tests, and endometriosis wasn't the first thing that popped up. It was them just trying to find out why we weren't conceiving. So pretty much we went through different steps before we came to endometriosis.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, and for you, Candace, did endometriosis pop up at first? Is that the first thing they went to?
Yes, that was the very first diagnosis. As I say, we went through several things in office trying to figure out what was going on. But because of my pain level, I actually woke up one morning. I was at Norfolk State and I was just in a lot of pain and I could not get up and go to class. I woke up and till this day, I say it's by the grace of God. I think everybody was busy. I somehow got in the car, got to the doctor's office, and that's when I started my journey. It was just unbearable pain each month during that time, as I said, before and during. And I think that October, somewhere around there, we went to um, do some testing, and then it led to her doing the surgery. So I think I had the surgery, like the first one, that November of 2004. So
Okay.
that way, that's how it was confirmed.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So it
I
went
know
through a different.
each of us have different stories, but some symptoms of endometriosis could be the lower back pain, abdomen pain,
Mm.
heavy and irregular menstruations. Believe it or not, even constant diarrhea.
Mm.
Like those could all be signs. But again, our journey is so different because I don't believe Quita experienced any of that.
I didn't. I did not. I would say maybe 6 months prior to us doing the infertility clinic. I was at home one day. I experienced one time. I felt a excruciating pain, like in my abdomen area. And in the beginning, when you feel a pain, you take ibuprofen or you take things to
Yeah.
kind of subside it, and it wouldn't subside. So that whole day, I was calling Jeremy saying, "Something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. I think I need to go to the hospital." I said, "At this point, it's excruciating. It's unbearable." I was kind of bent over. And what was crazy was we got in the car, we started to drive, and then, of course, Jeremy's so high tolerant to pain. My pain level totally different. And he was like, "You okay?" He was like, "You sure?" I'm like, yeah, I know my body." So
Right.
right when I swear we went to get on the interstate, the pain just stopped.
Wow.
I stood
Wow.
straight up. Nothing was wrong. I didn't experience a back pain. I didn't have nothing going on, like none of the signs you guys were having. I didn't have any of those pains, fortunately. And that was it. That was the one time that I experienced a pain in my pelvic area until we went to the actual infertility clinic.
Wow. And
Mhm.
then Candace, you talked about how you went to the emergency room. And then I remember I would be walking sometimes, and I remember just as clear as day. One time Eric and I was going to the grocery store. When I tell you that pain sucker punched me and I went down, that pain sucker, it can't listen, guys. When I tell you that pain comes out of nowhere, you can't do anything but bend to mercy and
Mhm.
cry and call on the name of Jesus. But that pain sucker punched me so hard and I fell down to the ground. And I don't know if the people thought he hit me or what, but that's how bad when it came. But then it only lasts for like 2-3 minutes and then
And
it'll go away. But
that's
it
the
will come
hard
so
part.
hard.
That's the
Hmm.
hard part. That when you're feeling that pain and you're going through it, and you call today, you got to wait maybe 4 to 7 days to go see the doctor, and you're trying to describe to them what is going on. And you're
Mhm.
like, this is what happened to me. It felt like this. It did it this way. I couldn't, like, one point, as you say, ended up in the emergency room one early morning. My pain would just go, and I would just try to tough it out as much as I could. But one night I could not take it, so I went to the emergency room. That's how I found out. I don't know what time in the journey, because it was 7 years that I had the constant pain with 7
Mhm.
surgeries. Sometimes I still get a little pain even now because it's not going.
Mhm.
You still have that residual, what I call it. It's not something that you can really say is forever gone. Me and
Hmm.
my doctor will say, we're not going looking for anything unless I absolutely have to look.
Right.
I monitor it every day. I just say I'm an endometriosis warrior, but that pain will
Mhm.
out. And one time I went to the doctor's office, I was kind of sitting on my side, like leaning in the chair. They was like, "Are
Yeah,
you okay?" I'm like, "No."
Girl,
I was like, "I
girl,
cannot."
that pain.
You
it's
can't even
that
sit
painful.
straight up. It's
Yes,
like,
ma'am.
so the pain is real.
So, and what people don't understand, right, is when we talking about mental health, when you going through a pain like that, it takes so much out of you
Mhm.
to just maintain some type of dignity in yourself, not to be hollering and screaming like you crazy. So the mental and emotional exhaustion that
Yeah.
it causes,
Hmm.
right? So now
Mhm.
we're dealing with the endometriosis, we're dealing with the possibility of infertility, we're dealing with the pain. So when I say that, I'm saying, did any of you guys start getting like maybe angry or even depressed with just fighting through this pain? Because
Yes.
Candace, I'm not mistaken, you was what, 8 years? Quita was 6 years. I think I was like 7 or 8 years too.
Hmm. Well, I only experienced the pain that one time, but then I came later to realize, like, dang, that was that horrible pain that I felt. And it does feel like you can't get off the floor. But I remember telling my husband, I was like, boy, I hope labor don't feel like that. You know,
Listen,
it
labor
it
ain't got
felt horrible.
nothing on that pain.
It was horrible. Hmm.
Hmm.
Like the
Candace, how did the pain affect you mentally?
you question everything. You question everything. Did I do something wrong? Did I do something right? Why me? Why am I the one in this situation? Why did he select
Mm,
me to go through this? Like you
mm,
question everything because you're like, okay, this was not something that my parents could have prepared me for. This is not something
mhm,
that was in my family, but I would say it was more so on. I believe I do have an aunt on my dad's side that may have something related to it. I don't know if it's an
mhm.
exact diagnosis. As you said, it was could be something that's hereditary, but
Right.
it's something that you question everything because I knew no one with this
Yep.
disease.
Yep.
You
Yes.
know no one.
No, no.
Right.
And you're
Hmm.
looking like, okay, Lord, we know that people go through things. We know that people experience these experience things. It's not as common as cancer.
Hmm.
Something that is talked about as
Hmm.
like diabetes or your heart health. So
Hmm.
why me? I just question
Yeah, I mean,
everything. And if people
Right.
that
mhm,
say, oh, well, you can't question God. Yes, I go to God,
yeah.
I talk to him, I lay it out because I had to know. Did he still
Hmm.
tell me to this day why he selected me for it?
Right.
Absolutely. I
Right.
can't answer that
So,
question.
so with you saying that, right? I have a healing nugget, but I think about the pain and the experience and how I, I I can't explain that pain, but I often and the fatigue that comes with the heavy menstruals.
Hmm.
And I often wonder, like the woman with the issue of blood went through this for 12 years.
Mhm.
Like 12 years, and I thought about that while I was going through my process, and I'm going, that alone is exhaustion because we're losing so much blood. Like Quita said, she didn't have the real clots. Girl, I looked like I was having whole calf livers coming out. It just was
No.
ridiculous.
Wow.
It was
No.
really ridiculous. And the fatigue, right? And then, I thought about what you said. So now here's my little healing nugget. So my little healing nugget is, sometimes we have thoughts that consume us, right?
Hmm.
So I'm sure if we had it our way, all the bad stuff and unwanted stuff that we, had happened to us,
Hmm.
we would erase that out of our story.
Right.
And I think often, like, if I look at my current situation, I look at the things that I've been through, and can I say I'm grateful? I mean, it happened, but it has me here now on this journey, right? It has me on this journey. It may have been unwanted, it may have been unplanned, but yet here I am, able to now share. Just
Right.
like you ladies, we didn't want this to happen to us. We didn't
Mhm.
want to go through all this stuff, but
Right.
here we are on this journey, and through our testimonies, we are giving people hope. Not
Yes.
only are we giving people hope, hopefully we are educating enough women out there to say, "Hey, go check that out. Why are you
Right.
going through that many, pads? Why is this pain happening? Go check that out." And God still gets the glory out of our story anyhow,
Yes.
Yes.
right?
It does to get the
So
glory.
he does still get the glory. So I
Mhm.
just want to say that, I know that we wouldn't want this for nobody else,
Mhm.
but I thank y'all again for being on here
Mhm.
and sharing your story, because we gonna help somebody
That is
out
it.
today,
Yeah.
Amen. I think too,
right?
I wanted to piggyback on it when you say, is it a genetic? Is it genetics? Is it something that it's inherited? Does it come down from like your mother? So I will say, when my mother was right roughly around the age of 40, 38, somewhere in that number, my mom had to have a full-blown hysterectomy.
Mm,
She was in her 30s. So now that we sit here and we talk about it, and you think back that we were so young, 8, 9, 10, which was extremely young. I mean, that's a good way to start evaluating or looking at the situation to see if the age that we actually started having a cycle could have caused us to have the pelvic disease that we ended up having. And
mm,
then thinking in regards to your mother, like, so the first time I experienced seeing my mom have female problems, her sister, she's one of 4 girls, and they never had issues. And my mom, being the youngest, it seemed like the issue kind of fell on her. And she
mm.
was one day, like you said, you can go through a pack of pads in 2 days, like, and that's not how it should be. You should be able to have that
Right.
patch for the next month or so. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But I watched my mom, and I don't want to sound so graphic, but I watched her menstrual take over, and she was bleeding to her socks. We had to rush her to
Yes.
the emergency room. And I never seen anything like that in my life. But that was prior to me, because at the time I was a teenager watching my mom go through that. And I was
Right.
like, what is that? Like, I was shocked to see
Yeah.
that. And so now that I look back and we're talking about it, it starts from somewhere. And that was the dealing with my mom.
Yeah.
So hey, it could
That's
be,
And
I would
that's why
say,
it's so important for us to talk about it.
Mhm,
We see these things and we don't understand.
mhm,
And like you were sharing with your mother without being so graphic, I remember having to change sheets. I remember having to take a change of
Mhm.
clothes to work
yep,
because you just never know. If I stood up, it would just
yep.
everywhere. And like I said, I had them, y'all know the midnight pads that come
You had a
all the way
diaper.
up over the
Yeah, the
butt cheeks
diaper.
and I'm still, it's happening. So before we go any further, I want to say thank you guys for tuning in to Real Talk with Ellasin. And I am so grateful to see Paula Harris Hill. She is our LPC for tonight on. She is with Coach Counseling, COACH Counseling. And she has her own website too, talking about feeding fearless. Paula girl, hey, thank you for chiming in. So she's our LPC online, guys.
So,
She's
so,
my she's my Siri and my Alexa today.
Hello, hello, hello.
so Ellison, I
Candace,
want
what was you gonna say? Go ahead.
we were talking about the genetics, but also nowadays we have to, like Kendra said last week, we got to look at what we're putting in our body.
Mm,
We got to look at
yeah,
what we're putting in our body. You said it too. They only have to have a certain percentage for it to be organic. They only have to do but so much to pass these tests. What are we consuming? Processed food is not good. Most of the stuff that we probably eat causes inflammation in our body, and it does not help our situation,
yes,
whether
Right.
it's
yes,
endometriosis or any other disease. It
Mhm.
causes inflammation. So we have to look at what we're putting in our body. I know some of it tastes good, some of it is not even good for us.
that's
Right.
right.
So we got to evaluate the whole circle, looking at genetics as well as what we are putting in our body and making a conscious
Yeah,
decision to make those changes as well as to exercise as well. So
Right.
all three of
right.
those have to be done together.
Right.
Yes, 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 yes. So let me ask you guys this, right? On your journey, on the journey, and I mean, let's be real. We're still healing from our journey. So, but
Mhm.
on the journey, especially in the beginning stages, were any of you guys feeling like maybe dissatisfied or down on yourself or
Mhm. Mhm.
challenging or like what is going on
Mhm.
with me? Right?
Right.
Any one of
Boy.
you guys feel like like that?
Well, for me mentally, like you were saying earlier, um, I think my journey of having a mental decline came when we were going through the process and I was finally diagnosed after several tests when I was diagnosed with endometriosis. And I was told in depth what it was, pretty much a pelvic disease, as you explained it, Ellison, in the beginning of the show, so people can know what endometriosis is. Um, they were educating me on it, of what took place, why I am where I am. I was diagnosed with a severe case of endometriosis, but in my mind, mentally, I couldn't process that. I think you were the only person that I had to process it with, that you had experienced some things, Ellison. So it was kind of like you and my mom was like looking back, talking to her and seeing what she went through. You guys were heaven sent for me because it's something that we don't talk about. All I knew is that I wanted a baby, couldn't conceive a baby, and mentally I did become sad. I was able to have a little bit of a support system from you and my mom to get through it. But yes, I did have my moments where I was extremely sad, or I would talk to my husband about it, not knowing that emotionally it was bothering him as well. I guess me being the female, and I'm saying to myself, it's not him, it's me, because
Right.
we ran the test on him as well, and he was okay. So I think it became mentally exhausting and emotionally draining to him as well, because he's watching me hurt and suffer
Yeah.
because I am the carrier to be able to carry a child. And
Yeah.
it mentally took a toll on me. I was walking around saying, well, Lord, I did everything right. I did what you asked of me. I
Mm.
followed the steps. I didn't have kids before I was married. I went to college. I'm graduating from college in a year. I was in that
Mm.
process as well. Another thing too, we have to remember is the stress we hold makes it 10 times worse.
Yeah.
And I
Yes,
realized
I'm
that
glad you
in
said
my
that.
journey, that mentally I was stressing myself out.
Yeah.
And, so it was mentally draining for me. It took a toll on me. Thank God it didn't take a toll on my marriage because he was there to support me. But I found out the whole thing was just overwhelming to him as well. So when you
Yeah.
marry, of course, y'all can understand you're not going through this by yourself. The man is just trying to be so genuinely strong for
Be
you so you
quiet.
don't see his hurt.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yes.
Paula, she was talking about, her stress level and the toll that it was taken mentally. Are there some techniques that we could use to, maybe, stop our thoughts or decrease our stress? And if you don't mind putting that in the chat, just some techniques that'll help us, some thought stopping techniques or some ways to de-stress. If you don't mind putting that in the chat for me. Thank you, Paula. I love this little, hey
Yeah.
Paula.
Well,
So Candace, Quita was saying that it took a toll on her mentally, and she was just becoming so stressed. That's not good for the body either.
Nope.
it's not. It's not. I like everything she said. She may have said she didn't go through the same process that we went through in the beginning, but
Mm-hmm.
everywhere she just spoke,
Yep.
I felt that because I went through it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through my journey. I didn't have no one I could talk to.
Right.
It was my mom.
Mm,
You try to just say you're going to your husband, but it's weighing on them as well because they're trying to figure out, well, how can we help her? I
Right.
can't change this, but what can I do? And then the mental part for me is like, okay, as you said, you asking God, I did everything that you told me I was supposed to do. I did it in the order that you told me I was supposed to. So why is it still happening this way? Again, you're questioning everything. And then
mm,
you're looking at it for me. I had a surgery 2004, 2006, 2008, 2010 was a hysterectomy. 2011, I had two surgeries within 4 months of each other. I had a total of seven. Every other
mm.
year, you're in the hospital, and people that you know in your family or your friends, they're having babies, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Lord,
Ooh,
Yeah.
can we go there on
Yeah.
Real Talk with
I did not
Ellison
sign
about these
up for
babies?
this.
Yeah.
Why are they able to have babies and I can't? You see what's going on in the world. You're seeing people
Ooh,
not taking care of their kids. They're abandoning them. They're leaving them. All of this stuff is going on. If you knew that was going to happen, and I wanted one, why can I have?
why couldn't I have one?
Why can
Jesus
I
help.
have one?
Yeah.
Mm.
And literally, I've been in it where every time I was getting ready to have a surgery, I knew somebody that was getting ready to have a baby. I stopped going to.
Mm.
There was a period where I did not go to baby showers.
Candace, you speaking right. You are speaking right.
I
And
like the
whew,
mental, because you go back and question, and then you're questioning yourself. I'm supposed to be a woman. I'm supposed to be a wife. I'm supposed to bear children. I'm
I'm
supposed.
toxic.
Yes. I'm supposed to be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah.
whew.
I can't do any of that.
Woo.
Why do I have to go through this?
Yeah.
What did
Yeah.
I do that was so wrong?
And the
And
thing
as you
that
get
you said that about you, Candace, you know what? Sometimes people also say that. Well, what you
Mhm.
doing?
Yep.
Well, what happened to
and
you?
then
Or
and
you
then
must have been
so
promiscuous when you was younger, or you must have did that. It's a stereotyping and a judging.
Yeah.
and then not even when talking about when you're younger, they're looking at you as an adult being
Mhm.
married. I've been with my husband this year, will be
Right.
19 years we've been married, and I love him
Congratulations.
dearly. Thank you.
Yep.
As Jaquita said, it takes a strong man to stand by you to go through
Yeah.
this when they can't do anything and they're going through it as well.
Yep.
Looking at you, it's like, well, why don't y'all have kids?
Yep.
And
What's
maybe
wrong with
Right.
y'all?
what's wrong with you? When you gonna
Mhm.
have a baby? Oh, you can't
Right.
have it. Well, you can adopt. It's not that easy.
And you know
Yeah.
what's most the when are you gonna have a baby part? I don't know
The
why
win.
it used to do something to me. Like if you only knew my story, and it's kind of like
Right.
you tired of telling your story. Like, well, right now I can't conceive kids. Like, who wants to tell the world that? It's just
Woo,
you know what
Jesus.
I would say. I'll say when God's ready to bless me, we will have kids.
right.
That
Right.
was my way to get past the conversation of talking about it. I don't know. I've gotten to where when you're talking, I guess I didn't.
Yes, Lord.
Yes, I feel you on that one. And then now,
Yes. Yes.
even just
Yes.
telling
Yes.
them
Yes,
I
Lord.
cannot have
Yes, Lord.
kids, if I say that, you could see them literally go into a shell, like, oh, I shouldn't ask that
Right.
question.
Right.
Right.
No, you should
But
not have. If
yeah,
people,
and you should
one
have
thing I
not
have,
asked in the first place.
exactly, it's none of your business. You
Right.
don't know what the husband and wife have decided. You don't know what's going
Yeah.
on, what they're dealing with, or why they can't.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So stop asking people when are they going to have kids. Just because somebody gets married don't mean they got to get pregnant tomorrow, a month,
Right.
or a year from now.
So
Let
I
them
Right.
always felt like every time they ask me when was I gonna have kids, you ask me about my sex life. I don't need you all up in my business.
you.
That's that's how I
Yeah.
felt. So I'm just saying, let me go
Oh,
ahead and read what Paula said. She said, other techniques to manage stress. She said reframing your thoughts involved a shift in perspectives. Instead of focusing on what's wrong or negative, practice gratitude for your support system. Candace, we know at the time you didn't have one, but
Mhm,
then the doctor's guidance and other blessings, which was really good. She said other techniques to
mhm,
manage stress include journaling, personal
mhm,
self-care techniques, and we talked a little bit about techniques on self-care last show, and
mhm.
reducing your intake or viewing of images,
mhm.
pages, social media. Basically, she talking about that comparison, girls. The
Right.
comparison.
So
And what makes mine so different from y'all is I was having children during this process. So
Mm.
that's what makes my journey different. I was having children, but
Mhm.
what I was
Mhm.
going through to have these kids
mhm,
was um was painful in itself. And the first time I didn't have a support system, I was there all by myself. The
Mhm.
second time my son died twice. He
Mhm.
died twice. There's a lot going on in my system, guys. He died twice. And they revived him, and the second time they butchered me up even more to just get him out because it wasn't all about what my stomach was going to look like. It was about trying to save
Yep.
this child,
Mhm.
but my insides were so toe up because of
Yep.
endometriosis. It was causing all these issues.
Yep.
And then it was that long stretch of I didn't think I could have anymore. I felt like when they did the surgery that they did
Mhm.
something to me, that they didn't want me to have it in the process. And Candace, this is when you said everybody was having babies and everybody they was having kids. And yeah, I
Yep.
was blessed with the two, but I had a dream. I had a dream, and this is what I wanted to do, and everybody kept having babies, and everybody kept having babies. I spent so much time on my knees. I was getting angry. You hear me? If I was invited to a baby shower, I was angry. I was resentful. I can say I had jealousy. I was
Mhm.
jealous.
listen,
I did.
listen. I will tell you. Do you know how they say speak things into existence?
Yep.
I would go in faith. I would go.
Mhm. Mhm.
about the baby clothes. I've never shared this part. I never shared this part. It was when we did the in vitro. I had a room, and I went ahead and painted the room.
Mm.
I went ahead and painted the room. I believe it was around time we did in vitro, and I painted the room. And I'm sorry, I'm closing my eyes. I know I can't see you guys, but
It's flashback.
just before it was the week of Thanksgiving, I literally had signs of a pregnancy.
Mm.
Literally had it. And when I went in, the lady said, I can't, yeah, you have signs, but I still can't confirm if it took place. If it took,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't.
Mm.
I had another endometrioma that took
Explain
over.
that.
So with endometriosis in your cycles, you normally get a cyst.
Yep.
Well, it's like a cyst. They will typically go away if you go through the whole process, if you don't have endometriosis. Sometimes mine would go away, sometimes they wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I had 7 surgeries. And I would get several of them, as I say, with every other year, it would continue to grow, which led to the surgery. 2010, when I had the hysterectomy, well, before that, when it was 2 of them, I want to say probably one in 2008. That was the first one where I went in, and as soon as she put the scalpel to my stomach, it exploded. I wouldn't be sitting here for that one if I had waited any longer, maybe even not even 5 to 7 days with that one and the one with the hysterectomy, because both of them exploded as soon as she went in to operate. And as I said, that one exploded as soon as she cut my stomach. The second one in 2010, when they were doing the hysterectomy, because it was so large, we couldn't see the full image on the imaging with the MRI, the ultrasounds, and all the tests that they did. We could never see the full image of it. So she was like, I'm going to leave that alone and remove her uterus. By the time she said remove and leave alone and all of that, it exploded. That was the second time. And it was just so large. It was larger than a grapefruit. So walking around with that inside of you, you're gaining weight, don't know why, you're doing your body's just going through all of this stuff.
All of this.
Yep.
And you're trying to figure out
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. Why is this happening the way it happened?
Mm-hmm.
So I figured 2010, I'll have a hysterectomy. I get on hormones, I would be good. I wouldn't have to deal with endometriosis again. For those of you that are listening, hysterectomy is not a cure to endometriosis.
No, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
That is the absolute last resort.
Mm.
And when I say that 2011, that July and that November, I had 2 more surgeries. Still had the same doctor to this day. Very awesome doctor. I love Dr. Lee of Monarch Women's Wellness. Love her dearly. She sat me down and she said, I have to be honest with you. I can't help you anymore. I'm like, what? I have to send you to the oncologist. I never knew until that conversation that she would always talk to the oncologist about any time she had to do a surgery. Because one of my surgeries, I think, was with the hysterectomy, and the one before with your urethra and all of that other stuff. The endometriosis attacked my organs. Things which people not really know what's going on. You're thinking it's just your reproductive. No, it was attacking my other organs.
Yes.
IBS. It caused a whole slew of other problems.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I'm gonna send you to the oncologist. First, she prefaced it, you don't have cancer. Don't worry, but I gotta send you to the oncologist because they have the tools to help go the way your bodies are made and the way it's positioned and they had a tool that could go deeper.
Yeah.
So that's why I say our saying is we're not looking for anything unless we absolutely have to. So I still go like for my regular yearly checkup.
Right.
Technically, I don't have to go. I still go. I still follow everything. I still see all of my doctors. It's just not as often as it was in the before, because at first it was every 3 months, then it was every 6 months, and it became a year. But going through all of that, It's a lot.
It is a lot. And
Mhm.
I want to read something Paula said. Paula Hill, she's our online LPC from
Mhm.
Coach Counseling, and she's addressing the men, and she said a husband can be supportive by being present, listening to her concerns, holding her when she is emotional. We don't want you to fix it. We just want you to know that you have our backs no matter what, right? And another part of that is also share their feelings. And something that you was saying about attacking the organs, they discovered that I had something called adenomyosis, which is hardening
Mhm.
of the uterus, right?
Mhm.
And like I told you guys, my journey was different because I was having kids.
Mhm.
I finally did, I think it was a 6 year journey. I finally did conceive. I went for a earache, but anyway. So I finally did conceive. However, the issue that it had caused with the hardening of the uterus,
Mhm.
the attacking of the organs,
Mhm.
I think I was 4 months. And they
Mhm.
told my husband, you're going to have to sign some paperwork
Yep.
Mhm.
because they both may not make it, and
Yep.
you're gonna have to choose one.
Mhm.
Can you imagine now finally conceiving and then him having to make that choice?
Yeah.
To make the choice and not knowing if my wife or my child gonna make it? So
Mhm.
when we talk about endometriosis and everybody's journey is different. So can you imagine 4 months and you got to live with the fact if any given minute, because if I would have went into labor, they told me I could have had a uterine abruption and hemorrhage to death. If I would,
Mhm.
so for from
Yeah.
4 months until you have to
Mhm.
live with that,
Mhm.
right?
That's
Mhm.
Now
what
I want to
becomes a
ask, I
hard
want to ask
conversation.
Paula. Yeah, I want to ask Paula, when someone's going through a chronic medical condition, what are some ways that they can, keep themselves encouraged? What are some motivational tools? Because it's chronic, it's ongoing. Candace, both of us now had a hysterectomy. So this is ongoing. And
Yeah.
Jaquita, I think you had a story about your situation too.
I did. So, finally, when she diagnosed me with having endometriosis, after they did a couple of, excuse me, procedures, what happened was they said we're gonna do this test where we're gonna shoot the dye
Mhm.
in through you vaginally, and if the dye goes through both of your fallopian tubes, and I'm sure Candace and yourself probably had the same procedure. And if
Mhm.
it'll come up on the screen, it was me, the doctors, of course, and my husband in the room, so you could see it come up on the screen. So to the to one side, I believe it's been, so the left side, it shot all the way through, and then to the right side, you can see it on the camera. It's like somebody snipped it. So it
Mhm.
it appeared to be that something was going on, and that's when I was diagnosed with endometriosis. So you can see that it wouldn't go through the tube, and she said that's what causes it. It makes it even more complicated for me to conceive. So she said, I believe at this point you do have endometriosis. So we set up a procedure where we did I call it laparoscopy. I guess I may
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
identifying it the wrong way. I don't know. But
You're fine.
huh. Okay.
That's
So
good.
then we had the surgery. Same thing with you, Candace. I had a cyst that masked my ovary, and it was the size of a grapefruit.
Mhm.
And to myself, I'm like, dang, I only experienced that one pain. I thought about it when we was on our way to the hospital. I was like, but dang, the size of a grapefruit, that's massive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
To myself, I'm like, that's at least this big. And
Mhm.
but I never felt pain but that one time. And I also experienced what Ellison is saying in itself. Jeremy had to sign some papers that said we went in thinking everything was going to be normal. She was like, oh, you probably have a mild case. So when
Mhm.
she actually went in, it was a severe case because the cyst was all over my reproductive organs. As Candace said, it was so bad with my appendix. it masked my appendix, and it masked my ovary. They said it was so bad that Jeremy had to sign a paper that says we're going to take her ovary. So when I went to sleep, I'm thinking a little procedure and I'll be good. Then we can move on. So when I woke up, I had no appendix and I had one ovary missing. So what that did, it decreased my chances to have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought that moment, I went from being sad to like angry. Like, I wake up and I'm missing an ovary, but I could barely, I could conceive before. So my chances now is like slim to nothing.
Yeah.
So I tried to be as positive as I can. So I experienced what Ellasin is talking about. I also experienced what Candace was talking about, where they had to remove things. Like you said, it affects more than just your reproductive organs. It started taking over everything.
Mm-hmm.
And to wake up and look at the photos and see how bad it was like, oh God, am I ever going to have a baby? So the woman did tell me, if you're not pregnant in a year, just come back. But I've experienced, like you said, all three of us have our
own journeys.
own journey, but they stimulate in its own ways. So when you said a grapefruit, I'm thinking to myself, like, wait, we didn't even discuss this. This is my first time on air with Candace. And they told me it was the size of a grapefruit. And Ellison's was
Mine was
bigger.
10 by 9 by 5. Mine was like
yeah.
Oversized grapefruit. So
yeah. So it's a journey.
And
so
we
I
look at
wanna
our
ask
body.
you guys. Go ahead, Candace.
I was going to say, we look at our bodies from the outside, and it's like, how in the world did we carry that?
Yeah.
We know we carry it. Yeah, and not know it. It's like I'm walking around feeling this little pain here and there, but then it gets worse, and you're not expecting. And I told Ellasin in one case, I went to the hospital, and she looked at me and said, did the ultrasound. And I looked at her like she was crazy. You would think she would have told me that I was pregnant, but when she told me I had another cyst, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I shouldn't have any more.
Mm-hmm.
I went through this whole process, and this is what it came down to.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
yeah.
taking care of our bodies, as we said, looking at what goes into it, but being just on top of our health overall. I think that's why, I know that's why all three of us are still sitting here, because we didn't ignore those signs.
Right. So Paula says, that it's definitely per case, right? And this is your own personal, but dealing with the whole person, it's important to address each wellness domain, which is physical, mental, emotional, social, as well as spiritual. So addressing your wholeness, and understanding that is a whole part of the mental health, right? And that's really, really so important. And she also said that physical methods can include like changing how you eat. We talked about that. Engaging in exercising if physically possible. They got chair exercises now, guys. Y'all can do it. Social methods including surrounding yourself with others who understand what is happening to you, right? And also to make sure you have regular conversations and make plans together, go to brunch. So basically your support circle is definitely there. And lastly, she says, spiritually, do what brings peace to your soul and connect to what you find meaningful, whether it's being in nature, yoga, meditation, faith. How big was your faith, guys? How big was your faith in this? And Candace, I'm gonna go to you because Jaquita, we're gonna go to you after.
Gotcha.
Good, Candace.
Well, I will say when I started this journey, I knew who God was, but I didn't have a relationship with him. I grew up in the church, would go to church, but it was nothing where I made the time to sit down and spend time with him, read. That is how my relationship began, through this journey. In the beginning, I was attending church, but I did not have that intimate relationship with him. But over the years, I began to form that relationship, especially when I would start to read about Hannah and the woman with the issue of blood. It intrigued me, but I kept reading about these things. And then, as I would progress, that was the only one that I could go to. That is exactly how my relationship started with him, through this journey. Knew of him, but to know him, That's how I got here today. It's
Right.
Amen.
that
He
faith.
got away, don't he?
Tell me about it. I
He
think
got away.
I told him he could have picked, a different route. I would have came.
Right.
He could
Yes,
have picked a
ma'am.
different route.
Mhm.
But that's part of it. As I say, talking to him, question it, going through it, and then understanding that he may not ever answer my questions,
Mhm.
but he will listen to me, and I have to sit and listen to him. So
Right.
Yeah,
that,
I'm glad that you said that, right? Hashtag faith, guys. Hashtag faith.
yeah.
So, you know, you say that, but I've learned through some of my own other stuff,
Hmm.
right? That sometimes no is the answer.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
not the one we always want to hear.
Yep.
Sometimes no is the answer, and we don't understand why no is the answer. Probably
Hmm.
won't
Mhm.
understand until we get to heaven, right?
Right.
But no is the answer, and I want to say this. Faith is so important. If it wasn't for, thank you, hashtag faith, if it wasn't for our faith, right, as y'all can see, I'm here today, right? We didn't hemorrhage to death because of faith, right? She, the youngest one, 23, we good, right?
Yeah.
So because
Hmm.
of faith, right? But do I still have issues like you, Candace? Yes. Did I have a hysterectomy? I had to have an emergency hysterectomy. Why? Because of a cyst.
Yeah.
Because of a cyst, right? Do I still have pain even after the hysterectomy? So no, hysterectomy, like you said, is not the answer. So faith journey, Jaquita,
Hmm.
faith journey. What is How did faith impact your journey?
Well, I would say like Candace, I was one who was brought up in church, raised in church as well. It was something that was instilled in us to do. I will say, you know, both of us was brought up in church. Myself, my husband, we attended church once we was married. We still continue to have faith in God. You do go through a phase where you start to question, but I never said it out loud, like, like, well, I've done this and I've done that, and I want everything to work in my favor. A praying family. I don't want to leave my family out or Jeremy family out because we've had strong support systems. My brothers, my mothers, my grandmothers, my aunts, everybody. Um, I'll say this, and I wanted to make sure I say that my brother was a minister, and he would pray so hard for us. And he would say, man, no baby, no baby. And I said, no. So I will say this, after that 1 year, after I had the surgery, Dr. Jill said, if you're not pregnant on your own, how about you come back and maybe we can discuss other options? I said, okay. I graduated from college that May of 2008. And when I graduated that May, I was happy to have that over with. Marriage was fine, but I wanted a baby. That's just where you are with it. I want a baby. I want a baby so bad, and your family just trying to support you through the process. And I do want to acknowledge too, though, I did have a blessing, which was my godchild, and that was our little baby, Pooter Pop, of
Who
course.
the pop? Oh, not
And
meant to be.
God
Oh
blessed
goodness.
us to have her from 6 months until years later. So we did know what it was like to have a child, but not one where we actually conceived together that was our own. But she is my child. So technically I have two, one biologically and one that God saw me fit to have. Um, so it was coming down to the year. So that July I had the surgery. I graduated. The surgery was 2007, 2008. June came, I graduated from college. I was like, okay, you know. So then Jeremy came home for a very tiny window, and we conceived. So I was the next month, which would have been August 2nd or 3rd or 4th, somewhere in there would have been my doctor's appointment. But we actually conceived. Praise God, all glory to God. My
Amen.
faith in God was strong, but in that moment, I was like, woo, don't estimate the power of God, So God did bless us with a child. My family was excited. We all was excited. Um, and my brother cried. I never saw him cry in my life. That was a blessing to me. To watch a man cry, I was like, oh God, it's serious, you know. But God is good. We did have a baby. His name is Jeremiah King Garrett. God bless me. And I do want to say that the tongue is very powerful, because I was so frustrated that one of our neighbors came up pregnant. And I was like, God, if you bless me with one, I will forever be grateful. And I'm sure other people like yourself, Candace, has spoken that as well. But, you know, but I said that. I said, if you bless me with just one, I will forever be grateful. Finally, God blessed us with that one, and I was forever grateful. Because guess what? I tried after that, and I couldn't make no more. So God did bless me with one. I am grateful. He is my miracle child. And they told me I had a 38% chance of having a baby. And Jeremy and I conceived Jeremiah King Garrett, and he is now 14 years old.
Wow.
Yes, amen.
Amen.
God is good. And as you
Mhm.
guys have been watching Real Talk with Ellison, you can see each and every
Mhm.
one of our journeys have been different.
Mhm.
There, and I know we're a little over, but it's something that I really, really, really want to talk about. Candace, I
Mhm.
appreciate you because our journey did turn out a little different.
Yep.
Your journey turned out how God saw fit for your
Splendid.
journey.
Mhm.
But the mere fact that you're on here and that you are sharing your story still lets people to know that God is still good. You can still
Mhm.
have hope. You can still keep the faith. You can still be happy. You can still
Yep.
have a good marriage. You can still have all that. So your story is just as powerful,
Yep.
even though you didn't conceive from your womb. And I remember us talking about, like, yeah, okay, I'm a teacher, and yeah, okay, I got all these other kids, and yeah, okay, all of this. And and I just want to say I am grateful
Yep.
for you sharing your journey
Yep.
because it's impactful and you are helping, both of you ladies are
Mhm.
helping people out, right? So
Mhm.
I want to say this little healing nugget. Don't suffer in silence. We
Mhm.
have to change our objectives. We are not going to feel good all the time. Life is not happy, happy, kill joy, and joy, joy all the time. We're not going to be
Mhm.
dancing through the tulips and all that stuff all the time. But we
Mhm.
should be able to express a healthy range of emotions
Yep.
without suppressing them
Mhm.
or suffering. We
Yep.
don't have to suffer just because we're going through something like this,
Right.
right? We don't have to suppress our emotions. We need to be healthy. So if you ladies were to leave our viewers with one thing, what would that be? And Jaquita, I'm gonna go to you, and then Candace to you.
Um, I would say to anyone who is going through or has experienced what I've experienced, Candace has experienced, or Ellison has experienced, just keep the faith and know that God is in control. And as she said, don't be silent about it. I was more emotional than I thought I would be. Although God blessed me with a child, it still hurts. But I am grateful. So that's my thoughts to you, and that's my nugget. Keep the faith. God is in control, and blessings come in other ways. Candace said she has about 10 godchildren. So that's the blessing. I have 2 to 3. Bill, I love you. Cece, I love you. Y'all are part of my family too.
Her name ain't Cece. Her name Poodle Pop, and I said it on national on Real Talk with
Oh
Ellison.
my God, she's gonna die because she's
You don't
watching.
know.
Hey, Buddha Pop.
Hey, Candace.
I would say trust the process.
Yeah.
I had one plan for my life, God had another plan. I had to
Mhm.
accept his plan to only be sitting here today.
Mhm.
Yes, I wanted my very own. Yes, I wanted my own.
Yeah.
But he saw fit to have another plan because it could have been something where my husband could have been raising the child and I not been here.
Mhm.
So I do know that much and I've seen that much.
Yes.
So I do have wonderful godchildren. I
Mhm.
posted yesterday a prom picture from 4 years ago. My aunt had her second daughter when I was in high school, and that was my baby.
That's it.
Mhm.
That was my baby. I
Mhm.
always tell her she had her for me. She is almost 23 now. She's still my baby. And believe it or not, she's coming tomorrow to do my makeup for prom.
There
So
you go.
he gave me a baby, but it was through my aunt. And I have a slew of other godchildren. I ain't going to try to name all of them. I believe it was like Tiana, Christian, Zoe, Amariah, Callan, like all of my babies. They're all, I love on them.
Yep.
Just know God's plan is greater than your plan, and just trust the process. And it's, as Ellasin says, when you're going through that process, you got to feel, you got to deal, and you got to heal.
That's it. Oh, that's a good hashtag.
That is my hashtag. Hashtag feel, deal, heal. Where you been, Quita?
I didn't hear that part. All I heard you say hashtag faith. I must have missed it. My apologies, babe.
Hey, Paula, put your website in the link, www.feedingfearless.com. Make sure you put it in the link, Paula. Thank you so much, Paula, for showing up. Ladies, thank you so much. Paula was our LPC from Coach Counseling. Again, I asked her to put her link in there with this www.feedingfearless.com. I want to say thank you to her. I want to say thank you to you ladies. I love each of you. I've known y'all for some time, and I feel like this is just bringing us together, because this is only the beginning of what God is doing on this feeling, dealing, and healing journey. Amen. So listen, guys, we are continuing with It Still Hurts, right? All that, don't talk about it. No, it's time to talk about it so we can feel, deal, and heal together. Don't isolate. Do not isolate. We are all in this together. And next week at 7 p.m., oh Lord, we are going to be discussing the journey of being sexually violated, right? So you guys pray for all of us here on Real Talk, because we are sharing our stories so that God can get the glory. You can have hope. You can hold on to the faith, and you know that you too can feel, deal, and heal. And thank you so much for tuning in to Real Talk with Ellasin. Y'all be blessed. Jaquita, Candace, hold on. Be blessed, everybody. Mwah.